What up, everyone? This is Mr. Lord, Dr. Professor, Dark Joker, here with another edition of Traditional Fans with Opinions, where I'll give my reviews for whoever I watched, read, or played today. And who are Traditional Fans with Opinions? That is myself, and that is you, the viewers. With all that being said, on with the reviews. Yaiba Samurai Legend, 2025, episode 22. So in this one, Yaiba and his group they face different tests in order in Mount Fuji to get the dragon orb. So throughout all the tests, they're very dangerous. So basically, about all of Yaiba's companions, they get lost. So they like all the companions like basically where Yaiba's like left alone, like throughout all the tests until like Yaiba gets to the very end. All the companions are like they're lost. They're seemingly killed, but it's revealed at the end that they're in a cage. Basically, Yaiba's final test, which will be covered next episode, will be he has to choose between grabbing the dragon orb and saving his friends. And that's what the next episode will be about. But dude, all these tests that were done, it was awesome to see. I liked this episode. That was really good, really well written. See how Yaiba, um, you know, cares about his friends, how he reacts to it, and he is pissed at the one guarding the dragon orb. So, and there's where you see Yaiba like basically when Sokka starts to fall down, like she grabs like this rope that breaks because it's a rope that's designed to not be the safe rope. So Yaiba has her grab like the hilt of his sword while he holds the blade, and like he's just bleeding the entire like his hand's bleeding while he's trying to save her, but she lets go so that he could get past the test. But dude, yeah. But it looks like that. I mean, I'm gonna bet Yaiba's gonna choose to save his friends. That's what I think's gonna happen, and odds are it's gonna happen because like for what little I know about the manga, they're all I think all of them, all his friends, at least most of them, are alive when the series ends. But yeah, so it's gonna be interesting how Yaiba handles next week, like test. So yeah, I really like this episode. Looking forward to the next one. Kaiju number 8, season 2, episode 9. So in this episode, Kafka like goes through training, basically, in order to like prepare for the next big fight against Kaiju number 9. So Hoshina is like training him, like showing him like one of the big train methods, I guess that Isao Shinomiya would use, and Hikaru gives like Kafka his like terminal, basically his phone, which allows him to talk to a lot of his old squad mates from Third Division, and basically sees that they all do care, even though they were scared of his kaiju powers, but they do care about him, and they are concerned about him. And he talks with Mina on top of the roof. Basically, well, there's like the big calm before the storm, but basically they talk about their past, how Kafka kind of like led, like when they were kids, Kafka would lead like quote Kafka's division squadron in order to like basically in order to help basically act like they were like going to fight kaiju, and basically Kafka would help evacuate them when they were kids. And so yeah, so basically so if Kafka knows that he's not alone and he's glad that's friends, but then Kaiju 9 number 9 has been sending these assets out to do these different kaiju attacks, but all the kaiju disappear right before the defense force gets there. So basically, these are like very intelligent kaiju. So then we see one of number nine's assets that disguises as a human does like like, and you see throughout the episode, you see Isao Shinomiya, like his consciousness is inside Kaiju 9 and it's gradually fading. And so like basically this is like part of the big setup for the big clash against Kaiju number 9. And so we see the whole fight going on, and basically they're preparing for the fight, and then so then the big one of his assets does the big attack, and so it looks like the next big fight is about to start very soon. And it's weird how the kaiju looked like a an evil version of Kikaru, and so yeah, and basically we're about to see the big fight happen, and we also see Kikaru about to use her mother's like numbers weapon, so her like kaiju weapon that Kikaru's mother used, Kikaru's gonna use. So that's gonna be a big thing. So yeah, and there's like a fight bit. So Kafka actually hung up on Reno, but then he was able to hung up when Iharu called him, and Reno was like, "Why you answer when Iharu called you?" He's like, I didn't mean to." It's so funny. But yeah, I really like this episode. Looking forward to the next one. Wolf King season 2 and full series. So I never heard about this show until recently. So season 1 premiered like earlier this year, back in March. Then season 2 aired well earlier this week. So and they did binge model, which is the most retarded thing ever. They should have done weekly. I think this would have done better. Yeah, so in this season, Drew Farron is, now sitting on the throne of Lycia. And, so basically, he's having to deal with, all the stuff that goes along with ruling, like a lot of the more administrative stuff, whatever. And so basically, like, then, like, yeah, so he, like, basically, like, during this, so Gretchen, who was betrothed to Prince Lucas, who is Drew's half brother, and what is the son of King Leopold, who was basically deposed. And so basically he then so Drew and 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 basically Whitley go to they go search for they sneak out of they basically bust out to say they weren't supposed to, and search for Gretchen. And yeah, so basically in this, then they go to this one area to Cape Gala to find Gretchen, and then they deal with this guy named Orsino, who's working with Lucas to basically kill Drew and all that. And then so basically after recapture, then all the other warlords who work under Drew, they're caught in a trap by by King Leopold. A bunch of them die, but one of them, but basically Whitley's father, Duke Bergen's able to escape, and so basically then Drew comes across his brother Trent, who believes Drew killed like his mother, who like adopted Drew, and their father, and then their adoptive father. And so Trent chases Drew, and then basically you have like where so Whitley's brother Conrad is killed by Lucas after when he tries to save protect Gretchen from Lucas. Then basically, then we see a bunch of stuff. So, and yeah, so then we see a bunch of different betrayals start happening. So Lucia is taken by Leopold, and then and then basically so Orsino and Van Morton like restrains Leopold, and Luke Lucas, under the urging of Orsino, kills Leopold and basically takes the throne. And then yeah, so basically Lucas is now in power. And and so Drew is no longer king. And yeah, so yeah, and then yeah, that's the end of the season. So it ends like with Drew falling basically from Cape Gala, captured by you know Count Costler. And yeah, so I would say this season's not as good as season one. Not even close. Season one was, I would say, a lot better. Yeah. So yeah, so like this season it was. I think like announcing that it was ending. I think this season was made before like it was announced that season two was the last season, and so basic, and then like there wasn't a way for them to find a way to end it. So I've not read the book, so this show was based off the Werelord books. I've never read those books. And then and then basically, so apparently this, like, for what I know, this is made to be a little more kid friendly than the books are. And obviously there's some, and apparently there was some like race swaps, whatever, and all that. But yeah, so yeah, the show's not as violent. And so, yeah, they dumbed this down to make this look more like a kid show. I mean, obviously people die. You don't necessarily see blood though. And yeah, so yeah, I feel like they if they had not made this like a kid show, made it more like a young adult show, or more like a a high fantasy show, more of like a fantasy show. I think this could have been good, but yeah, so this is not a lot of actions, and yeah, and so for what I saw, there's a lot of things they did. They apparently, for what I know, for what I've seen, Whitley I think has the most changes, like where how her story is, where basically a lot of systematic stuff doesn't really go against her in the books compared to like in the show. For like agenda reasons, which is stupid. I'm like, come on. But yeah, and so yeah, I'm not like season two. What season one was better than season two. That's what I think. Like in my opinion, that's what I think. Now the animation, it's 3D, kind of similar to I guess a good comparison could be Star Wars Clone Wars, like in animation, like the 2008 Clone Wars show, not the 2003 Clone Wars. So yeah. So as far as like this show is, if they made it like more of like a, you know, if they made this more like a dark fantasy and more brutal, I think this could have been a better show. And so I thought mm, let's say it's there's definitely a good story written in here that could have been good if you know some of the dialogues, whatever, some of the like the world is interesting, like the world is actually pretty interesting, but like yeah, I think season one was definitely better. Season two, I say, was kind of mid, and yeah, so I mean, there's not a lot I could say to it. I mean, it's probably something I think that could have been done better. You know, yeah, and it seems like Netflix wanted to do all 5 books, but they couldn't, so they stopped after I guess the second one. Because I don't know, I guess each season's based off a book, which makes some sense. That's kind of common. When you have TV shows that adapt novels, a book per season. But yeah, I think that you know, but yeah, overall, like this season, I'd say was mid. Overall show, I'd say on average, maybe like would be considered. I would say season one would be like maybe a 70%. Season two would be like a 60. So on average, it shows like 65, which I would say is technically mid. Because I'd say, 0 to 59 is bad. 60 to 69 is mid. 70 to 100 is good. That's how I handle rate. So I'd say overall the show's like 65. So overall, technically mid. Because you had a decent first season and a mid second season. Well, that's it. Did y'all like the stuff I reviewed? And if you have your own opinions about all that, you put all that in the comments. Thank you for watching, and like, subscribe, and all that. And look forward to the next video.